In 1942, America hid one of its most important war factories under a fake neighborhood, houses. After Pearl Harbor, America feared enemy planes could reach the coast next, and this factory was building the bombers that would win the war. So the military brought in Hollywood set designers, the same people who built fake cities for the movies. No bomb ever tested it. But this may be the strangest camouflage in history, a secret hidden not in the dark, but in broad daylight. In 1942, America hid one of its most important bomber factories beneath a quiet suburban neighborhood. From above, there were little houses, curving streets, lawns, trees, driveways, the kind of place nobody would look at twice. But the homes had no families inside them. The lawns were not grass. The trees had never been alive. And beneath that peaceful-looking neighborhood, thousands of workers were building B-17 flying fortresses for World War II. This was Boeing Plant Number Two in Seattle, a giant factory that helped turn raw metal into the bombers America needed for the war ahead. And when the country feared that enemy aircraft could reach the West Coast, the factory did not disappear into a mountain. It did not move underground. Instead, America made it look ordinary. It built a fake neighborhood on its roof. The story sounds impossible because it was almost too strange to be real. A working aircraft factory hidden beneath a stage set. A suburb built for people who would never live there. A small world of fake homes, fake roads, and artificial trees designed for one purpose: to make enemy eyes look down and keep moving. December 7th, 1941 had changed the way Americans understood distance. For years, the Pacific Ocean had seemed like a shield, a vast stretch of water separating the United States from the worst dangers of the world. Then came Pearl Harbor. Japanese aircraft crossed that distance, struck without warning, and proved that oceans were not walls. They were routes. Almost overnight, the fear spread far beyond Hawaii. What if another attack came? What if the next target was a shipyard, a fuel depot, a harbor, or one of the enormous factories that were beginning to power the American war machine? Seattle had reason to worry. The city sat on the West Coast, surrounded by ports, shipyards, military activity, and factories that mattered enormously to the war effort. And near the Duwamish River stood one of the most obvious targets imaginable, Boeing Plant Number Two. It was huge. From the air, it had all the shapes a reconnaissance pilot or intelligence analyst would expect to see. Long roofs, massive industrial spaces, large doors, access to rail lines and waterways, the unmistakable geometry of aircraft production. Inside, the work was relentless. Metal sheets became fuselage frames. Frames became aircraft. Wings were assembled. Rivets were driven. Engines and instruments were installed. Then the finished bombers rolled out into a war that was growing larger every day. The B-17 Flying Fortress was not just another airplane. It was one of the symbols of American air power, a heavy bomber built for long missions, carrying crews into hostile skies over Europe and beyond. Every B-17 leaving Seattle represented labor, material, planning, and time. And time was exactly what America could not afford to lose. If Boeing Plant Number Two were destroyed, production could slow, workers could be killed, aircraft could be delayed, and a war that depended on factories might lose one of its most valuable engines. So the question became simple. How do you protect a factory that is too large to hide? At first, the answers were familiar. Guards, kick-out rules, anti-aircraft defenses, camouflage nets, paint designed to break up the outline of a building. But ordinary camouflage had a problem. A factory did not stop being a factory just because someone covered part of it with netting. From high above, straight lines still looked straight. Large rooftops still cast large shadows. Hangars still looked like hangars. And an enemy did not need a perfect view to recognize a target. They only needed enough confidence to mark it on a map. So military planners considered a more unusual idea. What if the factory did not look damaged, hidden, or defended? What if it did not look military at all? What if it looked like a neighborhood? The idea required a kind of expertise the military did not usually keep in uniform. It required people who understood illusion, people who knew how to make plywood look like stone, canvas look like landscape, a painted wall look like a real building. People from Hollywood. One of the key figures was John Stuart Detley, a Hollywood art director and set designer. In movies, Detley's world was built from controlled deception. A city street could be a facade. A grand home could be only a front wall held up by scaffolding. A distant mountain could be paint and canvas placed at the right angle. He understood a principle that mattered more than ever in wartime camouflage. You did not always need to create reality. You only needed to create a believable image of reality from the point where someone was watching. And in this case, the watcher would be in the sky, not standing on the roof, not walking through the streets, not opening a front door. The watcher might be thousands of feet above Seattle, looking down through a cockpit window, or studying a blurry aerial photograph, searching for runways, factories, warehouses, and signs of military production. For that viewer, the roof of Boeing Plant Number Two needed to become something else, something harmless, something familiar, something easy to ignore. Work began in 1942. Soon, the giant roof began to change. The camouflage team broke up the harsh industrial lines of the factory and replaced them with a strange imitation of ordinary life. There were small house shapes, keyed roofs, tiny driveways, and trees made from lightweight materials, wire, feathers, and paint. The grass was not grass. It was treated fabric and burlap, colored to resemble lawns from above. The structures were not built to hold families. They were built to hold an illusion. From close up, the result could look bizarre. A miniature suburb sitting on top of an industrial roof, houses with no rooms, roads with nowhere to go, lawns no one would mow, trees with no roots. But from the air, the effect changed. The enormous roofline softened. The factory's straight edges became harder to read. The place no longer announced itself as a giant aircraft plant. It appeared broken into smaller, less important shapes. A neighborhood was messy in ways that factories were not. Real homes varied in color. Yards were uneven. Trees interrupted sightlines. Streets curved. Roofs pointed in different directions. That disorder was valuable. The camouflage designers studied what normal neighborhoods looked like from above and copied the details that made them feel ordinary, not perfect, ordinary, because perfection can look suspicious, but small irregularities look natural. A darker patch of lawn, a differently shaded rooftop, a tree placed at an awkward angle, a driveway that did not line up exactly with another. Every detail had one job: to confuse the eye. The project became known as Boeing Wonderland. It covered more than 24 acres of the factory roof. It took lumber, canvas, wire, paint, fabric, and countless hours of labor to build a place that did not actually exist. And all of it sat only a few feet above one of the most important war factories in the United States. Below the fake neighborhood, nothing was peaceful. The plant was alive with noise. Machines rattled. Tools struck metal. Workers moved across assembly lines. Thousands of men and women came to work each day, knowing that the aircraft around them would be sent into one of the deadliest conflicts in history. Above them, there were fake trees, a peaceful American suburb built to protect a factory making weapons of war. That contrast is what makes the story feel almost unreal. The United States was fighting a global war with steel, engines, bombs, and aircraft. But part of its defense depended on theater, perspective, and the hope that someone looking down from the sky would see a neighborhood instead of a target. The camouflage did not have to fool everyone forever. It did not need to survive a person walking through it. It did not need to fool someone who studied it for hours with perfect photographs. Its purpose was more limited and more practical. E8. Hesitation. A reconnaissance crew might see a shape that did not quite look like a factory. An analyst might hesitate before labeling an area a major target. A pilot might fail to recognize the significance of what lay beneath the disguise. In war, a few seconds can matter. A few seconds of uncertainty can delay a decision. A delayed decision can protect a building, and a protected building can keep producing the machines that decide battles far away. That was the logic behind Boeing Wonderland. It was not a magical shield. It was not a guarantee. It was camouflage built from doubt. The strange thing is that nobody can say with certainty whether the fake neighborhood would have worked in a real attack. No Japanese bombing raid ever came over Seattle to test it. No enemy pilot looked down at the disguised factory and left behind a record saying the illusion had fooled him. No dramatic moment exists in which a bomber turned away because it believed Boeing Plant Number Two was just another Seattle suburb. That moment never came. But that does not mean the project was pointless. Camouflage is not only about what happens during an attack. It is about making an attack harder to plan in the first place. It is about reducing certainty. It is about forcing the enemy to ask questions. Where is the factory? Which building matters? What are we actually seeing? After Pearl Harbor, those questions mattered to a country that no longer felt safely out of reach. Along the West Coast, cities practiced blackouts. Coastal communities worried about submarines and raids. Military sites changed their appearance. Factories used paint, netting, false structures, and tricks of perspective to become less visible from the air. America was preparing for an invasion and bombing campaign that never arrived. But Boeing Wonderland stood apart from the rest. It did not simply cover a factory. It told a different story about the factory. It replaced industrial power with ordinary life. It turned a war target into a picture of home. And maybe that was the cleverest part. A house is one of the least suspicious things in the world. A lawn feels harmless. A street feels normal. A tree feels permanent. People see those things and stop asking questions. That is exactly what the camouflage designers wanted. They wanted enemy eyes to look down and assume there was nothing worth seeing. As the war continued, the danger to the West Coast did not unfold in the way Americans had feared. The feared bombing raid on Seattle never came. America's industrial capacity grew at an astonishing scale. Factories across the country produced aircraft, ships, tanks, trucks, ammunition, and supplies in numbers that changed the balance of the war. Boeing Plant Number Two kept working. The bombers kept coming. And above the factory, the quiet, fake suburb remained in place through the tense years of the conflict. Then, in 1945, the war ended. Germany surrendered in May. Japan surrendered in September. The threat that had helped create Boeing Wonderland was gone. The fake streets no longer had a mission. The false lawns no longer needed to hide anything. The painted houses had done their job, or at least they had been ready to do it. Eventually, the camouflage was removed. The trees came down. The little homes disappeared. The roads vanished, and the roof became what it had always been, the roof of a factory. Today, Boeing Wonderland survives mostly in old photographs, plans, and memories. When people see those images, they often do not believe them at first. The view looks like a normal neighborhood. Then they learn what was underneath. A massive wartime factory, thousands of workers, B-17 bombers in production, an industrial machine hidden beneath an artificial version of American domestic life. And the story still matters because it changes what camouflage means. Most people imagine camouflage as green paint, nets, branches, or soldiers hiding in a forest. But this was something more ambitious. It was camouflage made from familiarity, a disguise built from the things people are trained not to notice. Streets, degrees. It worked by using normal life as cover. That is why Boeing Wonderland remains one of the strangest stories of World War II. America did not hide the factory in a bunker. It did not bury it beneath a mountain. It hid it in plain sight, behind the one image nobody expected to question. a peaceful neighborhood. Because sometimes the safest place to hide a secret is not where nobody can see it. Sometimes it is where everyone can see it and assume it is home.